Hi everyone, my name is Pramod Wadke from Informatica Global Customer Support, and the topic for today's presentation is Swagger UI in Product 360. Agenda for today's presentation is installation of Swagger UI followed by configuration and operation of Swagger UI. Then we'll have a quick demo on how to fetch the article details at entity level in Swagger UI. Then we will see the best practices recommendation and known issues in Swagger UI. Swagger UI is a REST API client for visual interaction with Informatica Product 360 Service API, specifically for the list and management API component. Below are the prerequisites to install the Swagger UI. We need Oracle or Azure JDK version 8 and above. Then we need a browser and Product 360 Server 10.x or above. Before installing Swagger UI, we need to know the important terms in Swagger UI, that is Swagger. Swagger is an open source software set of tools to design, build, document and use RESTful web services developed by SmartBear software. Then we have a metadata engine. Metadata engine is a Java-based dynamic REST API builder for Product 360 functionalities of list API and meta API component using the repository data. Then we have a REST. REST is a architectural style for providing the standards between computer system on the web, making it easier for the system to communicate with each other. To install the Swagger application, we need a Accelerator zip package. Once we download the Accelerator, extract the zip folder and navigate to Service Installation folder. To install the Swagger UI as a Windows service, open the command prompt in administration mode and run the following command: swaggerui.exe space install. Once Swagger UI is installed, then open the services and start the Swagger UI service. We can also run the Swagger UI as a standalone utility by executing the bat script. Following are the configurations provided within the application.property, which is used to adjust the operations of Swagger UI. We have a different properties like title, port, max thread and max session, etc. So Swagger UI login window can be opened in the default browser using the below URL. This URL reflects the default properties set in the configurations. Once we hit the URL in the browser, the UI page will appear where we need to enter the REST API user and Product 360 server credential. For the first time, we need to select yes on refresh metadata and then click login. At this point, the application fetches the latest repository information and builds a list of entities available in Product 360. In case of no changes in repository, for future login, click on no under refresh metadata. So any changes in the repository, this metadata refresh action should be performed again. Let's quickly go through how to fetch the entities and perform REST API query search for an entity in Swagger UI. Once the service is started, open the URL which loads up this Swagger UI application, then enter the necessary details like username, password, server, port, etc. Then click on login. Here, set the entity type you want to operate upon and click on generate button. So here I select all the entities and clicked on generate button. So this action initiates the generation of custom repository specific open API specification for supported service API. Depending upon the number of entities or sub-entities in the repository, the metadata generation and corresponding open API specification generation will take few minutes. As mentioned earlier, this step would have to be performed only whenever there is any change in the metadata information. Once open API specification is generated, the homepage of Swagger UI appears. Here we can select the API specifications like list and manage API. Once the selection is made, the corresponding YAML file can be downloaded using the below URL. This file can be used for client REST API implementation. Before executing any query, you must be authorized. So to authorize, click on authorize button and enter the necessary user credentials. Then click on authorize. So now you can perform the REST API search query. Here, let's take an example to fetch an article entity which fetches the details using by catalog search. Upon selecting, the supported parameters and their descriptions will appear. For example, we have a catalog parameter where catalog for which the items can be determined, and other parameters like page size, start index, metadata, etc. Here we can use tryout option to try this particular REST API. Let's say I select master catalog in the catalog and I select different fields like article ID, and I press Ctrl and select the multiple fields. Then click on execute. Here this will generate a curl and request URL that can be used directly in the downstream REST API client application and workflows. The selected query is also executed, and the response for the query is shown in the response body in XML or JSON format based on the selection in accepted header parameter. In the similar fashion, we can perform other REST API operation. Let's discuss some best practice recommendations and known issues in Swagger UI. For optimal usage of Swagger UI, the following recommendations are made. The installation of Swagger UI as a service and the P360 server service should be on the same node because it prevents any latency in the network and also leads to a quicker generation of metadata and OpenAPI specification. In case of repository with complex metadata and large number of entities or sub-entities, following optimizations are made through the Swagger UI configuration setting. That is, we can increase the JVM heap size and we can also increase the number of threads which is recommended. Additionally, the following limitations are known for the current version of Swagger UI, that is, it only supports list API and management API components within P360 and other API components like channel entity which is not yet supported. You can go through the Accelerator documentation for more information. We would love to hear your feedback on support videos at informatica.com and Informatica Twitter handle. Thank you.